Acids and bases. Acids and bases are one of the most obvious chemical changes that you can do and an easy thing to do. Many of the things that you have are very common that you have around the house, as you'll see with the things that we're going to look at today. But it tells how acidic something is or how neutral it is. Now, you can buy a universal indicator paper like this, pH 114. Doesn't cost much. I think I got 2 packages like this for like $6, $8, not very much. But you can also make your own, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but you can also make your own, which is what I've done here. Works as well. Colors are not as vivid, but it works. So let's talk about what's acid and what's a base. The notebook, the science notebook that you have, will give you some ideas about acids and bases and what they do, but what we're going to talk about is deciding what is acidic and what is a base. Obviously, a base is neutral. So we've got several common things. We're going to look at indicators and see what they are. The universal paper that you buy like this has the different acidities and how much, and we'll do some comparisons using that. So we're going to start with Sprite, and if I were you and doing this experiment, I would ask my kids to make predictions about what was going to be acidic and what was going to be neutral, or on what scale they were going to be acidic. Is it going to be very acidic? Is it just going to be very lightly acidic? So let's look at Sprite. Make your prediction about whether it's going to be acidic or not acidic. Okay, so you can see that it's about a number 4 on their scale. So it is acidic, not real acidic, but it is acidic. Now this one then is ammonia, just household cleaner ammonia. Think about whether that's acidic or not acidic. Woo! That went up to, I'd say that's a 14. So you can see it's much more acidic than was the Sprite. Then this one is Tums. You could also use Rolaids, those kinds of things. And you take them when you have an upset stomach, so making a prediction about this might be a little easier. I put it in water just so that it shows up a little, made it dissolve a little quicker. Okay, so obviously what it's supposed to do is neutralize the acidity in your stomach. So you can see that very neutral because it takes care of the acidity in your stomach. Then we have vinegar. You can make your prediction about how acidic you think that is. Think about the pickles that you eat and so forth. Now, not nearly as acidic as the ammonia, but you can see that it's pretty acidic as well. Bleach smells very potent, so you can make your decisions about whether you think it's acidic or not. Pretty much like the ammonia, very, very acidic. Now let's use a little bit of my paper, my homemade paper here, so that you can see it actually works as well. The colors won't be as vivid, but you can see that it takes all of my color out, bleaches all of my color out. Okay, then you got lemon juice, and you could use lime juice or whatever else. We'll do a little bit of my homemade, and you can tell that it is acidic. That's my homemade litmus paper there. Let's get some store-bought litmus paper so that you can see. Depends on whether you can afford to buy the real stuff or not. Obviously quite acidic, not too much difference. Obviously quite a bit more color in the real stuff than in my homemade, but it works if you need to do it that way. Okay, that was lemon juice. Vitamin C. Obviously lots of people take vitamin C during cold weather and that kind of stuff. So let's see what kind of progress we get here. Again, you've got some acidity. Fairly acidic. Obviously you would expect vitamin C too because it's very much like the lemon juice. And baking soda. Baking soda, I've stirred it up with water. Let's see what kind of acidic you got here. Ooh, a whole different color. It got green. So a whole different color. So there's all sorts of different things that you could do in terms of acids and bases. can be a very interesting project. But because sometimes I try to think about things that don't ask you to spend money. As I said, you can buy this, you get much more of a variety of color, and you get quite a bit of information on their little sheet to tell you how acidic something is and how acidic it's not. Gives you information on the back to explain that as well. However, as I said, you can make your own juice, and the reason I make your own paper, and you can make it out of red cabbage. Red cabbage has the same principles in terms of adding that acidity to it. There's directions in the book about how to make it that way, and then you take your white paper, make sure that it doesn't have acidity in the paper, and it will say that on the package. But you can take your white paper and dip it in the red cabbage juice, and when it dries, it will dry this bluish color, and then you can use that for your acidity paper to make your acidity test. The same principle will happen if you take those red cabbage leaves. Obviously, I ground these up with the blender and then cook them for just a few minutes. But you can do the same thing by putting red cabbage leaves in alcohol. You get the same principle. So you can do a homemade version of acidity and bases using homemade products. Obviously, the store-bought, which is not very much, maybe $10 to get probably 200 pieces of paper. But you can do a good job of finding acidity and bases. I will say that regardless whether you use the homemade, I put them in an old medicine bottle because the light will destroy what you're doing. The same thing with these little fellows, so make sure you don't store them in a light place, but put them in something that will take care of the light so it doesn't destroy the product that you're looking to use. So acidities and bases, some pretty interesting things, could do a lot of data analysis, could do a lot of hypothesis, and a lot of observation for your students.